So now it's my pleasure to welcome on stage two rock stars. I think we are setting the bar extremely high, and I would like to thank them for taking the time. First, we have Genna Elvin. Genna, so I've known her for at least 15 years. She has founded with François Tadaweb. She has many companies all over the world. She doesn't want me to count all the profits, but I can give you one number. They have an office in Esch. How many square meters? Make an educated guess. Give me a number. 100 square meters? No. 5? No. More. It's 4,000 square meters. Okay, and she has some news maybe to share tomorrow, maybe tonight, we'll see. And on the other side, I have my good friend Dmitry, is leading Emma. Emma is a startup, but it's really start and it's really up. I think I've made it already public that you have already 30 million annual recurring revenue. And it was 2 weeks ago, so I guess now it's 33. But this is how fast it's going. So the idea today is that we talk about scale-ups, and as we did 2 weeks ago when we did an event in your company, we believe it's time you just take center stage. That's what you're going to do tonight. So first thing is, I would like you maybe to give me a quick analysis on the startup scene. Genna is a chairwoman of Pulse, which is a startup association. So maybe can you give us an overview of your perception of the startup scene in Luxembourg?
Yeah, sure. So I think I've had the unique privilege of being in Luxembourg, being a startup since 2011. So I've seen the ecosystem change dramatically over the last 15 years. And I think what we're seeing is that compared to all those years ago, we're definitely making progress. That's without doubt. I think back in the day, we only had Technoport, we had Luxinnovation was obviously around at that time. But what we've seen now is just a proliferation of incubators and all of that kind of thing. So I think, from my opinion, Luxembourg has really focused on the early stage game. Early stage, we've made significant progress. Where the challenge for me lies is scaling, is ensuring that companies can actually grow in Luxembourg, ensuring that the government actually makes changes that are conducive to companies bringing in the right talent, going international earlier, and monetizing earlier. So I think slow and steady, but if we really want to focus on ensuring that the startup nation that we want to be, we have to invest more in firstly getting more startups into the country, and then secondly, investing more in scale-ups.
What is your analysis of the startup scene?
So, I think I agree with Genna. When I arrived here 4 years ago, so the startup community was quite small. And the quality of the startups was questionable, frankly speaking. So even if you took that days, the different cohorts of a FIFA start, the guys, they were doing something, but this something was incapable to scale. And right now we see that these things, they change. They tend to change. And we see that with the support of a government, Lux Innovation, they actually do a tremendous job. So they attract talents, they actually raise talents here. And these people, they build incredible things, and we see them scaling across not only the Europe, but also across the globe. We see companies expanding into the US. The companies, they're quite successful, attend all these different, competitions like Pricewaterhouse or Ernst & Young do, so all over the globe, the World Cup, Startup Cup. So that's awesome, and I'm super proud that I see, for example, my former mentor that was mentoring me during the FIFA Start program. He has started up the company, the video blog company. Matthias, he was my mentor during the Fit for Start program. He has started up the company, and that's super cool. And yeah, I think the ecosystem here in Luxembourg is growing, and it's super cool that we are a part of this ecosystem as well.
Very good. We've seen a lot of very good news recently. You've heard Arctic 3D raise, I think, 15. There's a lot of smaller.
Even a race, so dilution is smaller.
Exactly.
So it's better.
Sophistication in the way access to capital is given. There's also a lot of small things. Roger Assaker, I think, just got 2 or 3. So, as you said, 15 years ago, this was just impossible. People were going to Elban. They were never raising a single euro. It was a gentleman's club. So surely a lot of progress has been made. we know that the new government in 2023 went from startup nation to scale-up nation. So you both are extremely experimented. So maybe you want to make some announcement around this. Are you fundraising right now?
Not now.
So she might be soon. So where would you look for the money if you were raising a few millions?
Yeah, I think even that's changed. So I think the initial allure of coming into Luxembourg and getting things like the JE, like having, which is now actually increased to 1 million from 800K as of recently. So I think that is a really good step as far as bringing startups to, okay, we can match investment at a really high level. That's the first step. I think as soon as we start to get anything similar to Series A, so beyond 5, round 10, up to 15, it's extremely hard to find in Luxembourg. Expon is doing an amazing job as far as their investments. I mean, they follow, I was with Jerome last night at Nexus. And
Vitamer.
Exactly. And, that's a great example of a local fund that really care about the local ecosystem, that follow things like Fit for Start, that genuinely care about what is happening in the ecosystem. But we need more like that. And so I think early stage, companies can raise here now. It wasn't the case maybe 10 years ago. Getting to Series A, getting to Series B, I mean, I didn't even think of raising in Luxembourg for my Series A couple of years ago. I said, okay, I need to go to Paris, I need to go to London, I need to go to Berlin, I need to go to the US. And so this is really where we need to ensure that we're bringing in not only companies, but we're bringing in investors that are willing to sort of take that leap. But in order to do that, we need to teach our startups how to internationalize faster. Because companies that start in Luxembourg, they can't stay in Luxembourg,
There is no market.
It's small, it's great. Even there's a great example last night of, Luxembourg is a perfect test scenario. Bullshit, complete bullshit. Something works well in Luxembourg does not mean it's going to work well in Belgium, France, or Germany. And so I think, there's a lot that Luxembourg has to offer, but unless we start to teach our startups to internationalize fast, how to get revenue outside of Luxembourg fast, then we're not going to attract the Series A, Series B, Series C investors that we desperately need.
So it's dreaming bigger and demonstrating an ability to monetize fast.
Yeah, and internationalize fast.
So that you can scale. Okay. What about you? You're obviously already on the scale, just like Genna, on the scale trail. How did you do it? Where did you get the money? How did you get quickly those clients and this growth?
Let's start with the investment part of it.
Yes.
Just to follow up on what just Genna has mentioned. So, first of all, I think, and I firmly believe that when you're raising the funds, if you're successful and your company is growing and you're acquiring the customers, the money is a commodity that actually follows your growth. You can raise the funds wherever you are, and from whatever fund you want. So basically, there is a queue to give you the money.
Exactly.
So the thing is that for you, it becomes more important to find the right partners. And for example, we had a conversation with Mangrove, right? Hans-Jürgen Schmidt. Great guy. They bring a lot of experience. They're not investors in Emma, by the way. So, but I know the guys and the way they work. Beautiful companies, they IPO'd like WalkMe, great example. Wix, another great example. Floor, one of the best well-known B2C companies.
Skype a few years ago.
That got acquired, etc. So the thing is that you need these partners that will help you to avoid these different pitfalls down the road and will help you to scale faster. They will find for you the right shortcuts, how to grow your business faster, how to open the new doors for you. And again, the capital, come on. So you can raise it from any of these beautiful firms, but then you got to select what type of a company or investor you want to have on your cap table that would spend with you next 5 to 10 years building a company without any exit clauses saying like, okay, you got to sell the company because I need to wrap up my fund. Come on, that would never ever work with my company. I think that would never ever work with your company as well.
Let's go into technicality because of course, time is of the essence when you do that. So basically, what is your window from start to fundraising? Is it a month, 2 months, 3 months? Let's start there.
What's yours?
You mean from start?
Oh, I need to raise some funds. What's your window?
You never raise it hawk. So you never like, okay, I'm running out of cash, so let's raise the funds. It never happens like this. So normally you have a runway of whatever months.
Yes.
And when you actually fundraising, if you're fundraising right now, you're whatever series, like series B or A, whatever, you actually need to extrapolate this into the future, and you need to precisely like simulate this. Okay, so the runway with my spend with my new hires will be 12, 16 months. So the next raise, if everything goes good, with accordance to a model, like financial model that I have built and I pitched to investors and they have bought that and they invested into my company. So if everything goes good, I need to start the next fundraise 6 months before I'm out of cash, or like 8 months before. I'll explain you why.
Yeah.
Because it takes time to find the right partners. It takes time to negotiate the terms in the term sheet, and the term sheet is not a binding agreement. It's just a piece of paper. So technically, the guys, they can, I mean, you can turn down them, they can turn down you, so it's not a done deal. Then it's due diligence. Then there are findings. Then you need to renegotiate the terms in case there are like red flags, etc. And then you close the round, or you are not closing the round. And if you do not have enough of this runway, you're done, because you do not have any leverage to say, okay, guys, I don't want this deal anymore. I'll find another investor. I have like 4 or 5 months to go. I can do this.
I'd like to add on that, actually. So I think agree, but I think there's, for in the early days of when we were going out fundraising, okay, we were chasing around investors here, there, and everywhere, okay? Not a lot of good luck, just really trying to, our runway was falling short and everything like that. We were very fortunate enough to suddenly land quite a lot of really large contracts. So we're like, cool, we're not going to fundraise. We're just going to rely on our own revenues and we're going to invest in our own growth, okay? That was great, and we could have continued like that for a long time until the time came where we said, okay, we need to go faster. That was a very different change because we were cash flow positive. Like you said, investors were coming to us, and we got to choose that. That was before a couple of years ago. I think a lot has changed in the economy over the past 2 years. And I think in order to get startups to that position where they need to be appealing to investors, that's where we need to get our startups to, where they have the investors knocking and we say, yeah, nice to talk to you, maybe in the next round. That's where we need to get to. That's where we're not yet there. Now, with everything that's happening in the economy, I think that even just from my personal experience has been, our board used to say, what, you have more than 4 or 5 months runway? You're not taking enough risk. That's bullshit. You're not taking enough risk. You need to be investing way more, everything like that. What we're seeing now is, what, you have less than 1 year's runway?
Are you crazy?
You're crazy. And so I think, going back to your point, I think startups now need to really understand their runway in the context of today's political and economic climate, and then do the calculations that Dmitry was talking about. But fully agree.
I have one other thing to add in here. So first of all, and I'm shooting my leg right now, I'm a strong believer that raising capital is a failure more than a success. I'll explain you why. Because when you're building something and you're raising an external capital, in exchange you give the guys the most important thing for you as a part of your company, the equity, right?
Yes.
And when you're raising from the VCs, you're basically admit that you are not capable to raise the funds elsewhere. Like banks, they don't want to lend you the money. Friends, they don't have enough money. You're not profitable. You cannot earn enough money. So you're basically a failure. And then you go and reach out to these VCs and you're saying, okay, guys, I'll give you a part of my company. You give me money and the support that will help me to avoid the different problems that I have down my path. The only thing when it makes sense to raise a capital where you, first of all, self-confident that you're building the right thing, you have an attraction and a product market fit. So there is a product that is scalable, you know how to attract customers, and you know how to tweak the things around and make your business profitable in case you cannot raise the capital. If you're burning the cash, and you know only how to burn the cash, it doesn't make any sense for you to raise external capital. Your company will die.
Yes, and it reminds me, I've been at the first Web Summit in Dublin, and it was interesting because you really had the VCs sitting and the startups queuing. And as the European ecosystem was developing and maturing, you saw in Lisbon the opposite. Startups sit and the VCs are queuing. And by the way, congratulations, because during the panel we recorded 2 weeks ago, I heard my good friend Hans-Jürgen Schmidt say something I never heard him say, which is, I looked at Emma, I missed the investment, I fucked up, which was quite strong from a VC based in Luxembourg to say about a startup. So you've got your runway, you've got your product mix, very good. Now focus, because how are you picking? Are you going for 20 guys? Of course, if you're in round B or C, most of the job is going back to your existing investors, and this is where it's happening. Or are you just expanding and creating some competition among investors?
So first of all, do you mind if?
Yeah, go for it.
So first of all, when you're at the BC or whatever stage A, so you have already existing investors, we call them insiders. So if you think that it's easy to convince the insiders to invest again in your, no, it doesn't work like this. They need an external benchmark.
Okay.
Someone who sets the valuation. Otherwise, you have the insiders, these guys, they need to set the valuation benchmark. And for them, they're already insiders. For them,
So
it's
like
better if your company,
they're biased.
yes.
Gets that external validation, like external sort of fresh eyes of the
You need to go for others. How many? How do you advertise it?
Tough question. So when you're an early stage company, you just simply reach out to anyone that exists on the marketplace. They don't know.
Your network, or you just take the internet, or?
Yeah, so I mean, back in the days before the ChatGPT or Perplexity, so we had the databases, and we were like pitching all these investors in the databases with our like decks, saying, okay, we're building the best of breed product. I was reaching out myself on LinkedIn to all of these guys, and sometimes it works. So you're reaching out to a partner of Excel or Boulderstone or...
It's in your deck, bam.
No, you're saying, okay, I'm building something. I have initial traction.
You get them excited.
Yeah, and I mean, and the guys, they normally ask you for a deck. And that's an early stage story. However, when you're getting bigger and you have the support of your existing investors, and these guys, they're very well connected one with another. And they also take quite often the money from the funds of funds, so the funds that invest into venture funds. And then they can pitch into these funds of funds, and these funds of funds, they spread this information across the other portfolio funds. And then these guys, they get back to you. So when you're mature enough, like B, C, whatever stage, normally you have a pipeline of inbound investors. And then you also have someone you want yourself to target, like, I don't know, Anderson, Horowitz, Sequoia, so like top tier firms. But sometimes they also come to you themselves.
And then it's a beauty contest, basically. Okay, how would you do it if you were raising funds?
No, I agree completely. I think the more advanced you get with like things like EBITDA start to really count. The rule of 40, all of those, once you have those metrics looking really good, you'll be super appealing. And I think differently, at least from my experience, was that in the beginning, you are a little bit like running around just trying to find capital, right? Okay, yeah, that looks like a good match. They roughly invest in the domain that I'm in. And then it changes to, okay, for me personally, for example, I need US market. I need US investors. And so that's when I said, okay, great. I've had a lot of outreach from European funds. I've already got quite a lot of, I've got quite a lot of European presence on my cap table right now. I need to go not only to a US fund, but I need a US fund focused in that sector that is dedicated to that. That will help me grow there. And so you get a lot more selective about, what you need as a company. And that really guides you in those later rounds as far as saying, okay, no, that's what I need.
Very good. So my biggest takeaway, and I'm learning a lot, of course, here, is that the myth is that it's an art of convincing and communication. The reality is you let the numbers speak, basically.
In the beginning, you're selling the dream. Yeah. Okay? You don't have numbers. I mean, our Excel spreadsheets were complete
your ability
bullshit.
To execute.
Exactly. And you have your team, you have your product, you have your aspirations, you have where you want to be. Early stage investors know that they're taking a massive risk, right? I think when you get to those later stages, that's when, obviously they need to be impressed by who the team is and the story and all of that.
You back the dream with the performance.
That's when numbers count.
Very good. Before we switch to the next topic, you've done it a lot. So just give me the biggest mistake that people do when they scale up and the biggest tip, advice you could give to people who are willing to scale up. Maybe Genna first.
I'm now wearing my pulse hat. Just speaking to a lot of our startups, we've got over 300 startups that I really try and interact with quite a lot, and they're going through this journey. Not saying that we made a bunch of mistakes, so I could talk about Tada's mistakes until tomorrow. But what I've been seeing a lot recently, and even through talking to the VCs that are interacting with our startups, is early stage startups are making themselves uninvestable too early. What I mean by uninvestable is that the cap table is, they're giving away too much early on. The cap table is just completely not appropriate for later stage investment. And so already at a very young age, yeah, they've signed a great, even seed investment, but forget the next round. And so one sort of piece would be very vigilant, and really, if you are and do believe that you're on a journey for significant scale, you need to have that in the back of your mind every single round, every single action that you do, to ensure that even at Series C, you're still going to be attractive for investors.
So ballpark, that would mean never give more than how much equity at the first round?
It's a controversial topic, but I mean, make sure that you are still majority going into your Series B.
Okay, so maximum 40, something like this. And yeah, start small, demonstrate your ability, and then you can come back for the money, as you said. What would be your biggest advice or biggest mistake you see in the scale-up phase?
I mean, we've done so many mistakes. So yeah, I think every single entrepreneur can say the same. So that you always do the mistakes. You always make the mistakes, and I cannot say that there was a biggest mistake or the smallest mistake. They were just the mistakes. With regards to the advice, so when you're building something and you really believe in that, and even when nobody believes in that, first of all, take your time, build your product if you really believe in that. Don't listen to anyone on the marketplace. All these guys, they pretend they know more than you. They do not know a thing. And actually, if they know something, why haven't they started to build something, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So the thing is, just take your time, build a product, prove they run, right? So them run, and again, it is super important for you to stay confident. If you are not, then you don't have a team that believes in you, and everything falls apart.
Exactly. Perfect. We can go to the next part, which is issues. And I did the preparation. I selected three issues. It's important that we address them with people who are living the entrepreneur life every day. So first issue, very difficult to come up with this one, opening bank accounts. So maybe we start. What?
How many people in this room have struggled?
We have some specialists in the room. So maybe we start with you. At first, I'm sure it's a big topic. So where are we? Is it possible to open an account in Luxembourg? How long does it take? What are the solutions?
So as a startup association driven by founders, what we care about most is having accurate data that we can present to the ecosystem that is based on the voice of the founders that we have with us. Okay. So what I'm about to say now, it's not just my opinion. It's based on surveys that we have with our members and understanding their actual problems and trying to understand how we can help them. Across multiple surveys over the last 2 years, within the top 3, every single time has been how long it takes to create the company, how long it takes to create a bank account. And so as an association, we went to Spurkis, we went to Post, we went to all of these different banks in Luxembourg, and we said, this is not normal. In Belgium, within 2 weeks, I can have my bank account, I can have my TVA number, I can have everything ready to go. The fact of the matter is that, well, there's multiple different factors that we've found out from the banks. How much of this is true, need to see. But one factor was that the documentation provided to the banks creates a fundamental bottleneck because it's generally never complete. And there's a lot of sort of follow-up work that they need to do. Let's see. As an association, we're trying to work on this topic as far as, okay, if you have our stamp of approval, we make sure every single piece of documentation is up to date, in line, in agreement with the banks. Let's see if that has an impact, and let's see if that's a real factor. But the fact of the matter is, it's not normal, the finance nation like Luxembourg, that it takes so long for startups to actually create a bank account. And I don't have the answer, as of yet.
What about your experience?
No, I mean, so far so good. It was really funny. Jean is sitting over there, by the way. So it was really funny when we first met with him. Jean said, "Okay, opening a bank account. Come on, we can do this in a matter of weeks." So we faced the ugly truth that for us it was a little bit longer than several weeks. It took nearly half a year to finalize with a French bank the accounts opening. Like, I mean, I'm saying institutional bank. I'm not like saying Revolut account or any other virtual platforms. So yeah, I think our case is a bit different because of my nationality. I'm a Russian guy, so all these KYC, red flags, etc., they exist in our case. However, we hear from the other companies with the European nationals as the founders and with the Europeans in the cap table that it's also challenging. Take, for example, we have an external contractor. This lady does an HR services and the consultations for our company. She's German. It took literally 3 months for her to open the bank account here in Luxembourg for her smaller business. I mean, that's hard. That's hard truth.
I hear this a lot, unfortunately. You know, I'm in touch with chairman of the board and CEOs. I have one good news for you tonight. Yes, and it's maybe not the one you expect, but I have a good news. And the news is 2 weeks ago we talked and I said I will try to open an account in a mainstream bank. So I contacted 3. I went to the CEOs. The first one say, nah, Russian, we cannot touch it. It's too hard for us to monitor. No. The second one said basically, difficult. The third one said basically, yes, we can open the bank account. It's a big bank. I was very proud, but basically you're not going to be able to make any payments with it. So good news. The good news is I failed. You win a lunch on me. Okay. that was the bet. But to be serious, I think my convictions are very well known. I'm 100% pro KYC. I'm 100% pro AML. And I always talk to those guys saying, just go through EMA from top to bottom. If you find anything, no hard feelings, you know, that you don't work with it. I'm also an entrepreneur with a company who is 25 years old. And when I started 25 years ago, Luxembourg let me have an account, even though I did not have money. I was highly incompetent and I was highly delusional. And I'm still paying a few €100,000 of taxes every year. So this is where I'm challenging them. And I'm like you, Genna, they don't have the answer. Now, just to make things more confusing, we can conclude by saying you do have an account on Revolut. So I'm like, why is Revolut opening the account? I think you do have an account in France.
Almost.
You know, so these are the questions we really
have the accounts in Switzerland.
We need to keep on pushing. You have an account in Switzerland. And I'm like, okay, why would Switzerland open the account if there's any risk that Luxembourg, a leading financial center,
would took 10 days to open the accounts in Switzerland. 10 days.
And I think this is where clearly over the past weeks, the awareness has grown. I know Mr. Roth is fully aware. I know all the chairmen of the boards are fully aware. So we don't have the solution, but we have the awareness. And I think that's a huge progress. And I think Pulse has a very important role to play. I'll try at my small scale to keep on pushing until maybe the solution, as I tell them, is to just take Ms. von der Leyen to her word. She said in January and February that Europe fucked up because they did too much regulation. Maybe it's time to talk to Europe and say, let's go back to something we can actually do so that small startups with delusional entrepreneurs, I'm talking about my category, can still start. I mean, who knows what they will become. And that the future may be Revolut. We now have this fantastic example. I think one of the co-founders is Russian. Yes. So Revolut is there, one of the most valuable fintechs in the world. If this guy is allowed to have bank accounts and to open bank accounts, why shouldn't we also do it here? So that's one very important topic. We don't have the solution for today. Second important thing, the short path. When I arrived in Luxembourg, it was very easy to talk to anybody. Minister, member of the parliament. It was literally extremely simple. How are you doing? Maybe we start with Pulse. Are you getting easy access to everybody?
As an association, or we're talking about our startups? Or both?
Yeah, you can separate it.
I think when we first arrived in Luxembourg, I was completely shocked. I come from a small nation, right? I come from New Zealand. And, you know, I thought that in New Zealand, we had great access to everyone. I came to Luxembourg and I was like, wow. You know, I was just like with, you know, all of these top dogs straight away. What we've seen in our surveys recently is that Luxembourg, despite our small size, companies feel completely out of touch and feel completely unable to communicate with multiple different actors, which I was super shocked about.
Which is crazy.
Which is crazy. And so I think as an association, now we're being listened to because our voice is important. We are founders, Tom, we've got Patrick, we've got all those different guys that have actually walked the road, and we understand we're not just someone working in an office that's never created a startup.
So we talk Patrick Kersten, Doctena, Tom Michel's Salonki, some rock stars of the startup.
Amazing new board members to come, but hold that. And so now, because we've gained our credibility, now we have access to a lot of different players, and now we're being respected for our position within the ecosystem. But surprisingly, our startups are telling us that there are silos that exist, that they can't connect with the right people at the right time, and that's still a challenge, which is extremely surprising for us.
So such a small country. What is your experience? You're one of the strongest performance in the start and up. So 30 million annual recurring revenue. How easily do you access those people?
So for us, for me personally, it looks like I live in a different Luxembourg because I normally when we arrived here with all this support of Lux Innovation, Minister of Economy, Chamber of Commerce, so these guys, they literally were introducing us to like every single decision maker in the country.
They brought you here.
Yeah,
and
they brought us here. They introduced us to a minister. We've been attending this, and we attend this trade missions. So we're part of this. We meet everyone there: Minister of Economy, Minister of Finance, Prime Minister, Minister of Foreign Affairs. So like everyone. And again, with the Minister of Economy, they introduced us to KPMG, like senior partners. They introduced us to PricewaterhouseCoopers. The guys from Luxembourg City Incubator, they introduced us to different like decision makers in the different banks when we had problems. So for us, it didn't look like we struggled to get access to these people. So we got access to these people, and for us, it was easier than anywhere else in the world. So you can't.
That was my personal experience too. And that's why I was so surprised about how our young startups are feeling differently to the experiences that we've had.
But you got to do your job. So if you're an entrepreneur, your daily job is networking. You got to do this properly. And so if you expect that you sit still or stand still, and there is Prime Minister suddenly reaches out to you and says, "Okay, God bless you. You'll be a great entrepreneur." That will never ever happen. Come on, you got to attend the events. You got to talk to people. You got to pitch your idea, you got to explain why it is important, and you got to network with the guys, and then you get access to higher or more senior people, and that's how you get recognized, and that's how you get very well connected. So
the good news is for those who are watching that the contacts are public. I mean, if you want to talk to any minister, you go on a ministry, and at the bottom there's a button called directory. You will find every email. If you want to talk to a member of parliament, you go to chd.lu. Every email is there.
And they always respond.
They do, absolutely.
It takes time, but they respond.
Absolutely, and then again, it's this thing about selling the dream to make them want to meet you. So maybe another way to look at it, we just saw Mistral AI. This is a major wave. Last week, it was at Vivatech. It was like rock star treatment with NVIDIA and the president. Arthur came to Luxembourg. Again, maybe you saw the picture I posted today. Arthur with 4 ministers on the same picture. I mean, this is insane. Are we having a problem in Luxembourg about recognizing our rockstar? You talked about Tom Michel's amazing startups. The guy is a Luxembourger. We talk about Patrick Kersten. We talk about Xavier Buch. We talk about you too. There are fantastic startuppers. My feeling is they're not recognized.
So, I mean, we've spoken about it quite a few times, right? And I think what we need to do is that, especially the startups that are getting to scale, we need to make sure that they are more out there, and that the media really focuses on, not even just the media, but the ecosystem as a whole, focuses on showcasing those amazing examples to external investors. Because at the end of the day, we need to bring in more investors. And I think that's one area that we could definitely work more on is, okay, Luxembourg, we have created these amazing companies. We are capable of creating startups that can scale. Now, bring the investors in. And I think that's one area, and I think the LPA are doing a great job. I think as far as, but it's still that sort of later stage investment where we need to showcase more. I think fundraising and early stage and all of that, I mean, we've got a lot of startup coverage across multiple different sort of channels. But I think really identifying those really positive, unique stories, I think that's where we need to get better at as far as showing that to the outside world.
What do you think?
I think that in Luxembourg there is a lack of I would say special clusters where you can work with the local Luxembourgish companies. So basically you have a champions like you've mentioned, right? So the companies, they do, I don't know, enterprise software, for example. So why cannot you just build a cluster where you have companies that are like bigger enterprises out of Luxembourg, where you can connect these champions with those companies and they can build commercial pilots together, build the things and scale globally, because this is how they get the first reference from a tangible, sizable organization like, I don't know, Goodyear, Luxair. So they get this logo, they've built something like a small commercial pilot that makes sense for both of the organization. And then you can pitch it, okay, this Luxembourgish company together with Luxair, they've done this beautiful commercial pilot that showcases this and that. And then they can go directly to, I don't know, Air France, they go to the other companies, American Airlines, Delta, whatsoever, they already have this showcase in their portfolio. We don't have this currently in Luxembourg, but we have this in France, they have this in France, they have this elsewhere, but we don't have this in Luxembourg. So we don't have this direct access to the bigger organizations. And actually, what we can do, it's not only about the promotion, like this guy, he has 30 millions in ARR, he does a great job. Actually, it's more about the storytelling and the success. So this guy, he has reached the 30 millions, and now we introduced him to this beautiful Luxair company that we have built in here. Together, they showcased something that makes sense, and now we're pitching this globally together, like both companies out of Luxembourg, they're doing something great together. So that's what we need, I think.
And this is the success of Mistral AI, what we've seen for the first time in France, which is an old money jurisdiction. Yeah. So there is normally this resistance between the established company and the small startups. This is completely changing thanks to Xavier Niel, BPI France, Emmanuel Macron. And we've seen with Mistral AI this very strong call 6 months ago from the president saying, if you're a company in France, you need to work with these guys. And this would be something extremely easy here. You've seen on social networks when Arthur came to Luxembourg, a lot of AI Luxembourgish startups complaining that we give so much light to this French AI startup and not to these local ones. Just a quick test. We have here a little crowd. Can you give me the name of the startup who raised the most funds over the past 5 years in Luxembourg? That's a very valid test. It's 60 million. Who is it? Only one guy knows. It's Gcore. So that's just one example, you know, that we do have some massive champions. Gcore is one in the cloud business, so it totally qualifies in the AI environment, just like you. You're also in a cloud management system. So this is, I think, where we need to work together on a culture. If we do it all three together, it's not going to take us far. We need to do it, the startups, the state, the politicians, and if together we can maybe get inspired by what's happening in France. I do believe Luxembourg is a very bright startup and scale-up future. Maybe a word to conclude?
We have the potential. We have the ambition. Now let's just make sure that everything that we're talking about is, you know, as a true startup, we need to execute.
There was a wise man who said once, stay humble, stay foolish, right? Steve Jobs. So that will be my last few words.
Thank you very much for taking the time of your very busy schedule. Good luck with both scale-up.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Thanks for having us. Thank you.